Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Tuesday night. That means you're listening to another episode of Dynasty Theory. Mitch, it is that time of the year again where you can already hear I'm a little stuffed up. I went into the office today, had a coughing attack, had to go into one of the little breakout rooms, quarantine myself because like my coworkers are looking at me like, dude, I'm on a call. Will you shut up? So I'm going to be going on mute, I'm sure, at least a few times tonight. But that's why, I have you here to do the heavy lifting, Mitch.
Something like that. I mean, I think you had a cough for 6 months last year. Pretty close to. I mean, it went through the whole winter, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and I'm expecting it. We've been through 2 different ear infections over the last month with the kids, and Johnny just hacking up a lung every time he talks to us and just like coughing directly into our faces. It's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, you have kids, you know how it
Yeah, they're
is.
sick all the time. Dude, so today, like normally I don't put my lineups in on a Tuesday, but I had some time at work today. I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna get my lineups done. I got through like 10 teams and I'm like, this sucks. Like I'm playing Juju and
Ooh,
Clyde
oh,
Edwards-Helaire. And I mean, it's like I might as well just take a few L's this week, hope to go 50-50 and just move on to next week because this week is rough.
let's see. I have some comments on that, but we got Greg in the chat. We got Thomas able to catch a live show. We appreciate you. We got Heart in the chat. Everybody has ear infections. It's the new flu. I was thrown off for a second because I pulled up ESPN.com and one of their videos started auto playing.
Oh.
And I'm like, wait a minute, what
Wait a
is
minute.
that? Yeah, so we're looking at week 7 here. Man, 6 bye weeks. Bengals, Cowboys, Titans, but hopefully nobody has too many Titans playing.
Yep.
Jets, Panthers, the great CJ Stroud in Houston. They're on a bye this week. It's gonna, I mean, and with injuries, yeah, there are going to be, but it's happening to everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think we're, it's ugly, but it's going to be ugly for our opponents as well. I hope. We'll see what's going on. We got Owen in the chat, got the part of our Irish contingency. What is it? 3 a.m. out there? Jeez Louise. All parts
What
of
made
the
me think
globe
about it
here.
was I saw some trades in the Discord going to where people were like, oh, hey, this player has a week 7 bye, so I'm trading for this other player. I'm like, man, take the L this week. It's fine. You don't need to make trades in Dynasty because of bye weeks. It's okay. You could lose one game and move on. More, you still might win. I mean, it doesn't mean you're going to lose just because you have not the best starting lineup as we've seen this whole year. I've won a lot of weeks to where I scored like 120 points when my average was like 180, 190. It's just this year is just a little bit different.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it. It's not even like, okay, you squeak by, you want to match up with 120 points in a 12-team super flex, start 10, 2 PPR for tight ends, but you're like still 500-ish in all play for that week.
Yeah.
Like it's not, it could be a heck of a lot worse, but that's interesting. And there are so many different things in the Discord that I'm seeing this year more so than previous years. And I think part of it is because every offseason we get new folks that join the Discord. So we start getting different thought processes and questions and more overarching ideas, which is fantastic because I think it helps everybody grow that much more as a dynasty player. But we are getting a lot of questions. Would you do this based on this bye week? And I can personally tell you, I've never made a decision in a dynasty league from a trade perspective based on a bye week.
No. I mean, I know Dynasty is redraft right now, but that one game isn't the end of the deal. I mean, if that's the reason for you not making the playoffs and not making a push, then you probably shouldn't be making a push in the first place, in my opinion.
Yeah. Just take the L, or hopefully you have some guys that you could plug in. I know in the 28 player rosters, 12 team leagues, there are still some players that you might be able to plug into a lineup.
Yep, I think so.
There's the first one.
There we go. And it
I
starts.
and I couldn't mute it in time, so I gotta edit that out of the podcast feed. As you can tell, we're 5 minutes in here. Got some filler content. That's how it's gonna be
It's what we
tonight.
do, right?
So Dan is not with us tonight, obviously, but I posed the question, hey guys, what would you want to talk about? And Dan said, like, what about these middle of the road quarterbacks?
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the time throughout the offseason, especially, we talk about pivoting up and tearing up. But sometimes you're stuck with these quarterbacks, and it could be a Daniel Jones, it could be a Derek Carr, a Matthew Stafford that are being thrust into our lineup because maybe Joe Burrow was banged up, maybe Anthony Richardson potentially out for the rest of the year, Dak Prescott not producing at times, Justin Fields now banged up. So you're forced to get these guys in your lineup because when it's all said and done, unfortunately, we can't get Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Tua on every single team. So from a middle of the road quarterback perspective, are there any guys that kind of stand out to you? And it's going to be interesting because I think you and I might have different definitions when it comes to middle of the road. Because you might be throwing my man Russ in there, and he is just an elite asset. And I say that with a little bit of sarcasm.
A little bit.
But overall, like, you know, I know your off-season strategy for the most part is get those studs. But there's going to be some teams where you don't have that. So how are you doing in those situations, and what are you doing?
It was hard for me to get those studs this past season because the price was so high. So I kind of got off that. So what I've noticed, especially this week and last week, to where I have a lot of teams that are built around Jared Goff, a lot of teams that are built around Kirk Cousins, those kinds, because what ended up happening is I was able to get multiple 24 picks. So here I am. I have a team that has like Jared Goff and Geno Smith, right? And those are my two main quarterbacks, or Geno Smith and Cousins, or anyone in that tier. But I have the 24 first on a lot of those teams. And so when I go out, what I've noticed, I try to go out and upgrade any position on that team. I'm afraid to, because I got to use this 24 first to upgrade that quarterback position because I don't feel good moving them all away. And those are my two quarterbacks moving into future years. So for me, the middling part is really hard right now because even the good quarterbacks are a little bit middling right now as far as fantasy points scored. We have Justin Herbert, who averages like 23 points a game in your 4-point scoring. But then you have Trevor Lawrence, who's doing 15 points a game. And in between there, you have Watson, Richardson, Purdy, Wilson. I mean, even Sam Howell scoring more points than him. So I think this year is really hard because in previous seasons, we saw the huge leap in the elite quarterbacks. They were so far ahead of the others that you were losing if you didn't have one of those guys. This year is just not the case. So while these are middling guys, as long as they stay healthy, you could still win with them this year so far.
And I actually think it presents a unique opportunity because during the offseason, it is nearly impossible to tier up. It just is. But right now, because these guys, and we had a great discussion in the Discord earlier tonight. Excuse me. I get so pissed off. I get, because I feel it coming. I'm like, you son of a, don't do it. But we had a great conversation, and it was centered around Lamar Jackson. Well, is he really giving you that league winning upside? And based on his points per game and his production and what other guys around him are doing, no, he's not necessarily giving you that league winning upside right now. But because of that, and you could look at it with Patrick Mahomes, you could look at it with, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, you mentioned, so there are certain examples, and you might be able to do something involving a Matthew Stafford or a Derek Carr, and you got to add to him still. But what was market previously, and it still might not have gotten a deal done, now at least it opens up that door. Because let's say you are somebody sitting there and you have Anthony Richardson Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Herbert. All right, that's a great quarterback room.
Yep.
But you look at it now, Kyler Murray's still out. We're not sure that timeline. Anthony Richardson could be out for the season. Trevor Lawrence, he's fine. He, he's not fantastic by any means. Man, the Groggy Froggy
This is awesome.
Listen, as I always say on the pivot point, the Groggy Froggy's out in the morning. He's out at night right now. And usually it's you, Mitch.
It is.
You're the Groggy Froggy. But, looking at these quarterbacks, if that's your anchor, and let's say you had players like Devon Achane, we could point to maybe a Deebo Samuel, but you were expecting production based off of what we knew, what we saw previously. Maybe you have a Jahmyr Gibbs, and now you need something across the board from a skill position perspective. This is where the opportunity comes into play. If you're somebody that's maybe 2-4 or 3-3, but your all play percentage is low, your potential points or max points for is low, you can do something and package up position players with one of your middling quarterbacks for the higher tier dynasty asset. Because when it comes down to it, it's the position players right now that are giving folks the positional advantage. It's those it's those old wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, obviously a little bit different in that category. But previously, it's always high-end quarterbacks and high-end tight ends.
Yep.
They are the difference makers. This year has been so completely different.
Dude, can you trade Jared Goff and Diggs right now and get close to Burrow? I don't think that's all you have to do, but I think it gets you close enough with how Burrow is and how even that offense didn't look great. I know they won, but the offense didn't look that great again. So I think you're going to have to add a little bit more to it. But if you brought that up in August, people are like, you're absolutely insane. There's no way that happens. But now that it's point scoring season and people are going to be making a push for those playoffs, I guarantee you we see deals like that.
I actually don't think I would not be shocked to see a deal like that go through. And I'm pulling up DynastyDaddy.com, one of our partners. Again, I'm on there every single day, whether it's constructing a trade idea, whether it's just going through power rankings in a league.
I love how fast it pulls up the trade calculator. Like if you want to just make sure that you're not way off base, their trade calculator, I mean, it pulls up in seconds compared to other websites that take a little while to load.
And their trade database, which I'm accessing right now, it has trades that went through today.
Yes.
Doesn't have a 24 or 48 hour lag. And it tells you exactly what the tight end premium is, how many players have to be started, how many teams, what's the PPR. But I'm looking up. So we said what? Goff
and Diggs for Burrow.
Well, let's just see if there's anything that had Burrow and Goff. I mean, 12 team Superflex, start 9. This is actually 11 days ago. So the Joe Burrow hate still might have been
it's where the calf was injured. Yep.
Kyron Williams, Jared Goff in a mid-24 second.
Yeah.
For Joe Burrow in a mid-26 second. And they just put mid for everything across the board. Jared Goff, a 24 first, a 24 second, a mid-25 second. For Burrow in a 25 third. Again, these are trades that would not have been considered during the offseason. So while this Jared Goff, 2/3 and a first for Joe Burrow. 2 Superflex, 12 team, start 10. That was 9 days ago. So I'm not advocating one way or the other necessarily. But like you said, the door is open now. So I'm excited if I have a team that has these producing quarterbacks. Now, Jared Goff has propelled himself multiple tiers from where we were in the offseason. Yep. And I was thinking back earlier today because I knew we were going to talk about Jared Goff specifically. And when he first went to Detroit, I certainly felt that he was going to be a bridge quarterback. And clearly I was wrong. And well, they're going to draft a quarterback this year. They're going to draft it. And now we're here In his third season with the Detroit Lions, he has gotten better each and every year. He still has 1 year left on his previous deal. I think I'd be shocked if he doesn't get extended.
Oh, same.
Because, like, I mean, Geno Smith got extended, and that was based off of 1 year. Jared Goff has improved each and every year. And that's not a knock on Geno, by the way.
Right.
But with what we've seen from Jared Goff, I would have thought this was nuts 3 months ago, but I have Jared Goff and Dak Prescott in the same tier. And I don't know why there's Jared Goff is younger, more at this point, more stable franchise. And could you believe if you heard 5 years ago the Detroit Lions are a more stable franchise than the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, dude, it's a world, dude. Like, Lions are beating teams by 14 points, and I don't know how to react. I'm just assuming they're going to lose. But I don't want to make this just a Jared Goff show. One guy that I did want to bring up was Dak, because I see Dak being available in a lot of trades right now. He was offered to me 3 or 4 different times today. I can't get myself to buy him. I can't get myself at market value right now to want him on my team, because, like we brought up earlier, I don't think he's giving you anything weekly that you can't get from 20 other quarterbacks in the NFL. And I don't think his high end is that much higher than someone like, I hate to say it, but Jordan Love weekly. I think he's a little bit more consistent, but I think the top end's the same top end. So I have a really, really hard time. That's like the one quarterback right now that's sticking out to me that, like, I cannot pay market value for.
The way my tiers have separated throughout this season, 6 weeks in, I've gotten a little bit more of a gap between, like, the top 7 and that 8 to 11 tier. And then I have a gap between the 11 and then 12 to 21, even though there are 2 separate tiers there. But then you have Sam Howell and Matthew Stafford at 22 and 23 for me. And I'm a little bit below market on both of them, looking at FantasyCalc live positional values based on actual trades. But once you get past 23 quarterbacks, it's either question marks moving forward from a safety standpoint. Wait, what did you say it was?
I said it's all trash.
I thought you said it's tragic. And I was like, that could be a way to
that works
it.
too. Yeah, that's a
This
better
is
word.
tragic. But, or they're just really not giving you anything over, maybe even a positional player that you could start. Like, in +6, -4 scoring, you are not excited to start Kenny Pickett. You are not excited at this point in time to start Daniel Jones, Desmond Ridder, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield. Certainly the question marks after 2023, what happens. But then we get into Jimmy Garoppolo, Mac Jones, Aaron Rodgers, who is 75 years old, a blown out Achilles, doing who knows what. He says he's going to be back in like 2 weeks from an Achilles tear, obviously hyperbole. But then we have a spot starter in Gardner Minshew, a bridge, presumably, throughout 2023. And, like, it's crazy. I have Daniel Jones closer to Gardner Minshew than I do Daniel Jones to Russell Wilson. And that's 100% the truth.
Yeah. Dude, it's so hard right now, man. I mean,
things change like that.
Yeah. And so, like, the actionable advice that I would actually give people is, if you are okay staying in this mid QB tier, which I am more than happy to this year, I want guys to where I could count on their future. Even though Goff only has 1 more year, he's not going to go anywhere. Geno Smith, I feel the exact same about. I feel the same about, I hate to say it, Watson. Like, I'm not a Watson guy. Watson's going to be the quarterback there in 2 years because they gave him all the guaranteed money in the world. So he's not going anywhere. But the guys that I'm kind of hesitating on, Kirk Cousins, even though I know he'll be a starter in the NFL, I don't know where he's going to be.
Yeah.
Same thing with Russ. That team could easily draft Caleb Williams. They're that bad to where they cannot win that very many games this year and be in the running for it. And then, no, they didn't trade their first round pick for Peyton, right?
No, they'll still have a first round pick.
That's what I thought. Okay. I don't know why I got that in my head all of a sudden, but I just want to make sure I wasn't wrong on there. But guys like that, to where Justin Fields, guys to where I don't know if they're going to be a starter next year, I'm staying completely away from those guys, because we have the other ones for the same value or even a lesser value that we could still have control of.
Yeah, and that's interesting too. You make a good point, and it comes up so many times in trade scenarios and trade polls in the Discord, which the Discord community is completely free. So if you listen to the show, if for some reason you're out of your mind and you want to talk to us 24/7, you have that capability. The link is in the episode description, whether you're on YouTube or the podcast feed. But again, completely free. Stop in, say hi, be as active or as inactive as you would like. We got a lot of people just creeping behind the scenes, and that's okay too. But you talk about it, and it's like we'll get a trade question. Hey, would you trade this to acquire Justin Fields? And it's like, yeah, like the value's fine, but did you explore a trade possibility for somebody else at a much lesser price? And the Justin Fields dynamic so interesting because his value in FantasyCalc is high just because he really doesn't get traded anymore.
Oh, okay. No, that makes sense. So his value doesn't move one way or the other because you don't see the trades for him.
Yeah, so it's not being adjusted. So he's still showing up as the 26th player overall.
Mm-hmm.
If you do a startup right now,
yeah, good luck.
He's not going to the 26th spot. But it certainly is interesting. But yeah, the safety still comes into play. And that's always why, even if the point per game production isn't giving you far over replacement level, it's why people are okay paying up for these guys with far more security in these elite assets. You know, on paper, right now, should Trevor Lawrence be valued significantly higher than Sam Howell from a point per game perspective?
Sadly, no.
And that's where things come into play. And it really is an interesting dynamic. And we see this. I'm going to steal a line that Ryan put in the chat here. Mm-hmm. The pendulum, we see it swing drastically one way or the other once the season starts and once the season's over. And this is a great segue into Ryan's question here in the chat.
Yes.
Will we see a pendulum shift going into the offseason with quarterback values falling off in super flex leagues? And if you don't mind me answering really quick, ahead. I think we still are going to see those, 7-8 guys go in the first round of super flex drafts. But then it's like, why take a Dak in the second or third when I can get all that production and maybe then even more in the 5th, 6th, 7th round?
No, I completely agree with you.
But is it the safety then that comes into play?
I don't think it is, because the problem, you're going to have a couple more rookie quarterbacks come in that are going to change things a little bit. But we do have good young players in the NFL right now. I mean, how high? If we did a startup today, where would Sam Laporta go in a tight end premium league that has like a 2-4 catches or maybe 1.75? He's going to go absurdly high right now. I mean, we have a lot. Breece Hall, he's going to go absurdly high. We have enough good young players right now that is going to push down that second tier of quarterbacks. Like, I can't take Dak Prescott in the second round. Watson isn't going to go there. I can't even name one that I really want to take in the second round. It's because those rookies are going to go higher. And then you have the 7 quarterbacks that we feel pretty locked in on. And after that, it's like, whatever. Someone else is probably going to take him before I will.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I wanted to bring up 2 quarterbacks specifically.
Okay.
And, obviously we talked about Jared Goff a good bit. Mm-hmm. Where do I want to go? Do I want to talk about these other quarterbacks? I have a lot of things written down for Jared Goff. So can I just kind of say them?
Well, you wrote them down, so we have to talk about them.
All right. It's his 8th season in the league. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He starts out with the Rams. He's only 29 years old. This year, he has career highs in completion percentage. This is his highest touchdown rate since 2018. 2017 and 2018, he had those 2 off-the-chart years with Sean McVay. His interception rate this year is below his career average. This is his highest career success rate from a passing perspective. We talked about the contract situation. I think we both feel very confident he gets extended. This year, he ranks first in adjusted completion percentage. Now, here's the thing. And I'm wondering if it's really going to see a spike with Jamison Williams back now. Only 8.4% of his pass attempts have traveled at least 20 yards through the air.
I don't think we see a difference. Keep going.
So that ranks 26th. But he ranks first in deep throw completion percentage at 71%. All right, so he's at 71%. CJ Stroud is number 2 at 56%. Like I think he's at 13 of 18 or something, or 12 of 17. So I don't know if we see an uptick. I think there's still going to be so much underneath with Laporta, Gibbs, a lot of things happening here within 20 yards, but it's just, he's playing out of his mind. And I'm trying to think, I'm trying to find a good comparison here of a quarterback. If they were doing what Jared Goff would be doing right now, what their value would be. And
I want to say Aaron Rodgers during his MVP years.
No. I'm saying like right now.
Oh, right now.
Like, if Dak Prescott had Jared Goff's numbers, I think Dak would be seen as a top
without a doubt
6 or 7 quarterback.
Yeah. No, I actually think this is.
Is it just the initial bias?
I think so. I think it's actually going to change, though. I mean, Jared Goff, but it's. I do think he's going to be seen as a top 8 to 9 quarterback when this year's over. The only big hesitancy I have is Ben Johnson's an absolute genius, the offensive coordinator for the Lions. Like, dude just knows what he's doing.
Is he gone after this year?
I think he's gone, right? He's going to get an absurd amount of money, and he's gone. And then how much do you love Jared Goff when Ben Johnson's gone? That's kind of the scary thing. But no, I think you're right. I mean, if you had Deshaun Watson doing exactly what Jared Goff is doing right now, how would people act? Oh, he's always been quarterback 3 in Dynasty. He never should have changed. Why would anyone do that? But that's just what we do.
If Watson, I mean, he would be in that 106, 107 startup discussion.
Oh, easy.
If he were doing what Jared Goff was doing. Dak Prescott, same thing. And I love Dak. I had him in green on the sheets for how long during the off season. So, it's just so interesting because we all have these biases and they creep in, and it's like, well, we want to see them do it a little bit longer. But he's improved every single year, this being year 3 in Detroit. So let me throw some rapid fire at you, and we'll see how rapid it is without
I'll be fast.
Without Dan. All right. Unless I state otherwise.
So do I need a quarterback here with Jared Goff? Am I needing a quarterback? Because that's kind of the hard thing, right? You got to give me a little bit of a strategy to go with here.
Yeah, you know what? Let's say for all of these, your quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. That's your quarterback room.
Okay.
So presumably you're going to need a quarterback, but
I do need a quarterback, but I have some depth.
But you've gotten the points there up to this point. You're 4-2 or 5-1.
Yeah.
Okay. And unless I state otherwise, assume 12-team superflex, 2 PPR for tight ends.
Okay.
Jared Goff, and these are trades that were completed.
Yeah.
Jared Goff for a 25 first and 24 second.
Jared Goff
for a 25 first and a 25 second in a 14-team superflex.
Jared Goff.
These are all trades that went through in the last 2 days. 12-team superflex. Jared Goff for Zay Flowers.
Jared Goff
for Tony Pollard.
Jared Goff
for TJ Hawkinson.
Jared Goff.
Now, this group, starting with the Zay Flowers, actually, these are just 1-for-1s that I pulled. These aren't actually trades that I was able to find. So did I say Hawkinson?
You did. Yep.
Jared Goff or Devon Achane?
Dude, Achane's value is so weird. It's Goff for me, but Achane's value is so weird right now.
Kenneth Walker or Goff?
No, Goff.
Jared Goff or Drake May?
Oh, I take Drake May.
Okay. Now
we'll talk about that upcoming in the future discussions we'll have on the show. There's reasons for that.
And that's just kind of obviously not this league specific. Jared Goff or Brock Bowers?
Brock Bowers.
Jared Goff or whoever your 2024 rookie running back one is.
Jared Goff.
Okay. Now I want to go back to the middle of the road quarterbacks. So bouncing around like ping pong back and forth.
Okay.
Two different guys I want to talk about. One is giving you decent point per game production in Matthew Stafford. Here are some actual trades that went through, and I want the side that you prefer, and the quarterback room that we previously mentioned of Anthony Richardson, Justin Fields, and Trevor Lawrence. You're 4-2 or 5-1. Matthew Stafford or Elijah Moore in a 24-second.
Matthew Stafford.
Matthew Stafford or Jaden Reed in a 24-second.
Stafford.
14 team. Matthew Stafford or Gabriel Davis and Ryan Tannehill.
I need to go and offer some trades for Stafford. That's what it sounds like.
The market is wide open. A trade centered around Matthew Stafford. This one's the highest I've seen. Matthew Stafford or 24 first.
I'd take the 24 first. Even
if you're in that exact situation we talked about?
Yeah, because if I'm going to spend the first, I'm going to try to go for someone like, I hate to say it, Jared Goff, Geno Smith, someone that just has a couple of years younger that I know is going to be there for 3 to 4 years. I still really worry about that Rams team just deciding to close up shop.
All right. Early 24-second and late 24-second.
Matthew Stafford.
All right. So I think what we see here is the door is open. And it's funny because I have him in red on the sheets just because he's coming in at quarterback 21 based on trades. But then you see trades like this over the last 2 days. And I think these are situations where teams are throwing in the towel.
I think so too. Yep.
So they're 1-5, they're 2-4, their potential points are in the garbage. They're towards the bottom of the standings. They want Matthew Stafford off their team. So for the most part, that window is wide open. So if you are in a situation like we just talked about, and your quarterback room is in need of an immediate producer, if you will, check the bottom of the standings, see if Matthew Stafford's there, because it seems like he's going to be somebody you can sniff around on. Now, Derek Carr, how much differently do you view him compared to a Stafford or a Geno?
Derek Carr, if he's on my team, I'm very sad, and I will accept just about anything for him at this point because I don't think he's a good quarterback.
Yeah, it's
sorry, dude. Like, to me, he is Ryan Tannehill from a couple years ago, to where you have him, you're like, I have a starter I could put in my lineup, but I don't want to put him in any of my lineups.
Very blunt, and Greg doesn't typically mess around. He says Carr sucks.
Yeah.
I see our guy, Super Duper Flex, Bill, in the chat. What's up, party people? I don't think anybody's ever referred to me as a party person, but I'll take it. So Derek Carr or 25 first?
25 first.
Derek Carr or Cam Akers?
Oh, okay, Derek Carr.
That was the trade.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was it. So maybe, but still, I think especially if you're not contending, now is the best time possible, I think, to gear up towards next year.
Yep.
And really be able to consolidate some of these guys like a Matthew Stafford, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, and get up to one of those guys that, it's going to take some still, but get up to a Trevor Lawrence, a Joe Burrow, Anthony Richardson at this point in time, if he is going to be out for the season, because those teams are going to be looking for guys that can produce. All right. Give me 1 sec here.
All right.
Just had to go on mute. All right. One thing I want to talk about here from a more theory perspective, and this has been going on in the chat for a couple weeks now, and it's essentially dumping points. And I know a friend of the show, Scott Connor, he put out a show 2 days ago, yesterday. I caught it. As always, I thought it was a fantastic show. But this has been coming up in our chat constantly, and it's dumping points. It's you're not contending. You want to jockey for position in your rookie drafts here, and you're looking to get potential points off your roster.
Yep.
So I want to know, just in a nutshell, What are your overall thoughts and how are you approaching that? And did you see I actually did something in a co-managed league earlier
But absolutely
today?
not. I let you kind of take control of all the waivers and stuff in those leagues.
Not waiver. We made a trade
Oh, we did?
in Sunday Funday 001
Okay.
with Tim.
Okay.
Man, you are busy. Listen, so Tim
Well, no.
offered
Okay,
us.
okay. So for everyone that knows, I don't know what happens. We play in a lot of my fantasy leagues. John gets the email, no joke, 4 to 5 minutes before I do on a trade. So they're rejected before I even see him. So most of the time, I just see our co-owned team. It says trade, and then there's nothing else afterwards, just with how Google cuts it off on my phone. So I usually just assume they're all revoked or canceled.
All right. Well, for context, and let me know your thoughts in the chat. So this is a 12-team superflex, 2 PPR for tight ends. We are 2-4. We're 11th in the standings. Right now, we would be the 102 by 3 potential points. All right. We have 887. The 101 has 884. Okay. So in my mind, I'm like, let's shed points. Okay. We were offered Devon Achane and Michael Wilson for DeAndre Swift and Michael Pittman.
Okay.
What do you think about the initial offer?
Of course you countered because, I mean, that's what happened. I would have accepted that, to be honest.
So I rejected it and I countered instead of Michael Wilson, Terry McLaurin, and it was accepted.
Okay.
So we got Achane, we got Swift off the roster. We actually got a little bit older at wide receiver, but not hurting our potential points from a Pittman to McLaurin perspective. But now I think we can find a contender to take McLaurin.
I was just going to say, no, we can trade Terry. I love it.
So now I think from a points per game perspective, we came down a little bit. We get Achane whenever he comes back. Watch, he's going to be dropping 50 bombs and we're going to blow that.
Yeah.
But at least we got him.
It's true. It's true. No, that's a great trade, man. I love it.
Okay.
Can't believe you didn't ask me about that. You didn't even send me a message.
Dude, you ignore me.
I try to be honest.
I think a lot of people do, and I get it. But anyway,
okay.
This is one of the team. This is our only co-managed team that I think we need to be actively dumping points.
Agreed.
Everything else, we're either already super, super low, or we're in contention and, feel decent about our chances. There's some that might need to explore, but properly dumping points if you're not contending. Enlighten me.
Yep. Okay, so it really depends on your league settings. One of the first things you should do is everyone's always telling you, hey, if you have 28 roster spots, you need to fill 28 players. Not if you're dumping points, you don't. So on the teams to where I am truly trying to get the 101 or the 102, I will roster 20-ish players because I want to make sure I have enough so I could field a starting lineup every week. I just don't want to field a very good starting lineup every week. So I don't want a lot of options, and I don't want a lot of players on my bench that could end up messing up my max points or my potential points, however you look at it. So there's quite a few teams to I'll have 20 to 22 players on my roster because I don't want a full bench. I'd see no reason to have a full bench. John's throwing out the flag.
No, this is more. I didn't want to jump in and actually interrupt you, so I wanted you to finish what you.
Okay.
Are you in any leagues where the bylaws explicitly state you have to have a full roster?
Nope.
I don't think I'm in one either.
I was in one league and I had some people complain about it. So I was like, fine, I'll go pick up some players. I mean, none of them are going to give me points. If it makes you happier, I'll put some guys on my bench, but this isn't going to change my strategy for the year at all.
I'm in that league and there's over 400 players rostered.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter.
I was like, okay, if you really want me to, I will.
But okay, so that's kind of a workaround from a potential points perspective.
Yeah.
Do you think that's dirty at all?
No. Play the game. If people want to change it, if they want to say, hey, you need to have 28 players, because that's the exact situation. They say, okay, you know what? It's not fair. You only have 20 players rostered. You need to go get 8 more. Okay, I'll go get 8 more. I mean, it doesn't make any difference in the world. I could go get a whole bunch of guys that'll give me 0 points who will drop at the end of the year anyways. So that's fine. But I think it's completely fair way to play. And there's nothing against any bylaw that I know of that says otherwise. Because I will, and I make sure, I mean, if the guy's even getting 1 more point, I will put him in my starting lineup than someone else. I will make sure to try to start my best lineup each year or each week, but I'm not going to try to go get like the best waiver ads I possibly can this year.
Now, Ryan and I were on the same wavelength because he mentioned a player in the question. But if you explore trade opportunities and there's nothing there, or it's an inactive league, and like in Dynasty Kings, we're in that league together.
Yep. I'm dominant in that league.
My team is ass.
Yes, it is.
I have Kendrick Bourne.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to pay for him.
You can trade him to me.
What is it frowned upon from a commissioner perspective? There's nothing explicitly stating I can't do it, but if I just drop him,
as long as if you drop him, I would say if you drop him into a league that doesn't put him on waivers right afterwards, I'd be like, yeah, because it's just gonna be whoever looks at their phone first and adds him. But if he goes on waivers, I mean, as long as you're not dropping like a Devontae Adams sort of player, then or like Adam Thielen. If someone dropped Adam Thielen, I'd be like, it's probably a little too close. If someone's dropping Allen Robinson, I'm like, good for you, man.
All right. So Ryan's question here.
Yes.
Basically, do you spam out offers for these lower wide receiver flex options for a lower pick to get points off during bye week? So Allen Robinson, Robert Woods. I opened up a trade. I updated a trade bait earlier today, and it was actually Robert Woods, Kendrick Bourne, Jerick McKinnon, and somebody else. And I stated the price, like a third gets any of them or whatever the price was. No, nobody's going to respond because it's not that active of a league. But are you spamming offers out? Are you putting a comment in the chat like, hey, this is what I'll accept? What are you doing?
I usually try to set fab to those players because there's actually a lot of like low teams that want to go pick up the whatever rookie running back they hear about throughout the season. So I'll offer my fab a lot faster than I'll offer my picks because I really, really try to save the picks for getting players that I really like when the push is coming. Because there's some guys, there's going to be a Kendrick Bourne type wide receiver that pops up week 12 that we can just start. And those guys end up costing a 4th round pick. And I don't want to use it for a bye week player right now. Just get through 1 week. I want to use one that I could use throughout the fantasy playoffs.
Okay. And as this kind of goes into another topic, but the types of players or the range of players that if we're dumping points, and the dumping points, it really only comes into play if you're in a league where rookie draft order is decided by potential points. So potential points on my fantasy league or max points for on sleeper. And from my point of view, that is the best way to decide the rookie draft order.
I'm not in any other league that does it another way.
You know, I think I've been in a league or two that it's just reverse order of standings, but then you got to start monitoring, hey, who's tanking, who's not, are you setting your best lineup? And then it really, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It becomes very subjective whenever a commissioner has to go through and monitor these types of situations. But, the caliber of players, we had somebody in our Discord, should I be looking, not cut them or anything, but I'm trying to get the 101. It's max points for, should I dump Sam Laporta?
No.
Should I pivot off of Lamar Jackson?
No, you shouldn't.
No,
yeah.
This needs to be, you really need to take into account the type of players that you're looking at here. And we're looking to move any of these low end pieces that most likely are going to have no value in 2 months and get whatever you can for them, because keeping a Kendrick Bourne type player, and this is me talking to myself right now, is not worth going from the 102 to the 103. It isn't.
Yeah.
or if you have a wide receiver, maybe, and you want that, you want the more flexible asset, obviously you could pivot off of and go for a pick there. Another thing I like to do is consolidate, which it's kind of counterintuitive, but consolidate into one higher end asset if possible.
It's a great way to do it. Yep.
Because, like, let's say I'm able to consolidate 4 or 5 players into a Trevor Lawrence. Well, he's only been getting 15, 16, 17 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm dumping players. One of them might get 20 on a given week. And now I'm getting other guys in my flex spots. So consolidating into higher end players is something, if you have those veterans and you're looking to get some potential points off your roster, because now you're avoiding any of those possibilities where somebody has a spike week. Now, when would you actually start looking at doing something like this? We're heading into week 7.
I mean, right now.
You probably should have started it already.
Yeah. Well, one big mistake that I see people making, and this is usually people that are outside of our little bubble in our Discord, is they'll say, hey, I'm tanking. Here are my players. I'm looking for picks. A lot of times I don't want to trade my pick for that specific player. Like if you have an Adam Thielen on your roster, I'm not going to give you, and you add someone else, I'm not going to give you my first. It's just not going to happen in any way, shape, or form. But there probably is a way to where we could do Thielen plus another player, and I could give you my Higgins, and that will help you out because you're losing some years there. I'm gaining some positional value. But I think people get so stuck on, I need the 24 first. I need the 24 first. I need the 24. Just get a good player who isn't producing right now or is injured this year and move that way. But I just think people get so stuck on, I got to get these picks. And you're going to end up making your team have a worse pick in the draft because you aren't willing to move off players for even equal value because it just doesn't say a 24 draft pick attached to it.
Yeah, it becomes a war of attrition whenever you're looking at it. You're contending, and this happens. This is a real life example. It happens a lot, whether I'm contending and you're not, or you're contending and I'm not. It becomes a war of attrition because I know you need guys that can produce.
Yes.
I don't want those points on my roster. So who is going to budge first?
Yep.
You know what? It's like that pile of clothes next to the side of my bed. I come home from work. I get undressed. I throw my clothes next to the side of the bed. I could throw them down the chute. My wife.
Wait, you guys have a chute?
Oh, we got the chute.
Wow.
Okay, we got the chute.
Jelly. I'm a little jelly.
So, my wife sees them on the floor and they're John's. He can take care of it. A day goes by. Neither of us budge yet. Usually it is me because, she does everything else possible under the sun. Least I could do is throw a pair of pants down the chute. But that's kind of what we're going through with our trade discussion.
Yes. Exactly.
Who is going to be the one to throw the clothes down the chute?
Yep.
And sometimes it's neither of us. And Mitch and I, we have that proverbial pile of clothes up to the ceiling.
That's true. I have some teams that do that, to be honest.
So it's always interesting to see who's going to budge first. And sometimes depending on the situation, depending on where I am, it's better to give in, I think, than to be stubborn and hang on to that player, or vice versa. Just pay the pick. I know it's overpaying, but maybe this is the guy that I think a perfect example right now is Raheem Mostert. There are teams that are still 1-5 or 2-4. Hey, come get the running back 2 for the 2023 season off my roster. But they want something that's going to package up to a first. And
exactly.
But I don't fault them for trying. It was a Raheem Mostert and a 24 second for a 24 first from another team that I was offered to move the 24 first. And I can't do it.
No.
Because that Raheem Mostert is going to turn to that pumpkin eventually.
He will. He will. Do we have enough time to talk about the 101 through the 104 draft picks real quick? The 24 draft.
Yeah,
The
go for it.
only
Go.
reason why I want to bring it up is everybody is so like, I want the 101. I want the 101. I don't believe this draft is a Bijan or a Trevor Lawrence kind of draft to where you have to get the 101. And if you don't, oh no, you completely ruined your team because you got the 102 or the 103. Right now, Caleb Williams is the draft prospect that everybody loves. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be wide receiver 3 the second he gets drafted. Even before that in Devy leagues, he's going to be at worst the wide receiver 4, right? I mean, so he's going to be a top 12 dynasty pick as soon as it happens. And so in my view, and I really think Drake May is really close to Caleb Williams. And whether you believe that or not, that's fine. I'm just saying there isn't that huge gap between the 101 and the 103. And then if you play in a tight end premium league, you get Brock Bowers, who's going to walk in. If not as the tight end 1, he will be the tight end 2. So all of a sudden now you have 4 players, and more will come up as the season goes, as the draft process goes, as we saw with Anthony Richardson last year. We don't have that draft this year to where it's the one or bust. As long as I have one of the top 4 draft picks, I'm extremely happy. So Brill brought up in the chat to where people are willing to
wait, who brought it up?
Supa. It's Bill, right?
You said Brill brought it up.
Oh, sorry. I was going a little fast there. I get a little ahead of myself.
How dare you make a mistake? Obviously, I have to point it out because I've never made a mistake in my life.
Yeah, I get it by now. It's only been 5 years. But he's talking about people blow up their team so bad that they have Caleb Williams and just dust afterwards. And we see that happen constantly. And I just want to let people know, don't do it this year because it's not needed. If I end up with Marvin Harrison Jr. and not Caleb Williams, okay. If I get Drake May and not the other 2, I'm fine. If I get Brock Bowers, that's cool. It's just, you have to understand certain draft years are different. And this year, we talked about that 23 class being amazing. All I know is the top 4 picks in the 24 draft are going to be highly coveted. And that's what we care about.
We're going to have a top 7-8 quarterback come in from dynasty values right off the bat. Top 10, 11, 12 quarterback in Drake May right off the bat. I'm sure we'll have another quarterback slide in around quarterback 16, quarterback 18. Yep. Running backs, we'll have a few sprinkled in.
Exactly. We didn't even bring up a running back there, right?
Yeah, and I think that's more to do with, like, I like a lot of the running backs coming out, but I think it's the state of the running back position. Like, just look at all these teams with multiple backs, but then you get all the injuries. But then you look at players that are producing, like a Kyron Williams, Jerome Ford. So that's kind of takes away from the attractiveness of the rookie running backs coming in, I think, because of the state of the position. But then we got Marvin Harrison Jr. coming in as a top 3 or 4 wide receiver. Brock Bowers, I mean, now with Kyle Pitts over the last 2 weeks, really looking the part compared to the first few weeks. I think Brock's going to be tight end 2 when he comes out, but now he's got the surgery, the tightrope surgery or other. Obviously, I'm very technically sound when it comes to this stuff, as you can tell. But has he got out a month or so, I think? So we'll see how that plays out, if that impacts anything throughout the off season. But it's going to be, I think you're spot on. It's going to be a situation where you don't necessarily need to land that 101 to really improve your team. And even if you get that 102 or 103, you're going to be able to move off of that pick if you want to split that up. If your team is really hurting and you just weren't able to tank well enough to get that 101, you can still split up Marvin Harrison into multiple assets to really push you in the right direction and hopefully jumpstart a rebuild. And talking about that, I think if you're starting right now or in a week or 2, there's going to be a lot of people that they realize they're not going to make the playoffs. They're going to blow their team up. And that 101, 102, 103, it's probably locked up already.
It could be, without a doubt.
I'm going to go through my leagues because I want to see the actual percentage. I don't even have a guess. But there are leagues where the 101 right now is like 200 or 300 potential points less than the 102. So we talked about this weeks ago. Everybody is a little overconfident in their teams to be able to perform, but then we got to do it from the losing side too. Can I lose well enough? And I think that's kind of how we wrapped up a show a few weeks ago when talking about that. But a lot going on in tonight's episode. You know, we went from can we stretch this out to half an hour to can we keep it under an hour? And that's typically how this goes. I love the activity of the chat. A lot of discussions here. We have the theory conversation about dumping points. And then we talk about Jared God for about half an hour. Did you see that Freudian slip there,
good.
Jared God? Yeah. And then some of the middle of the road quarterbacks, they're producing, but now more than ever, we can probably tier up and get those higher end dynasty quarterbacks that they're just not really giving you much more production. And some people want that production. And if they can add positional players with all these buys, with all these injuries, I think that's going to be something that could really intrigue some folks.
Final thoughts.
All right. We might have to update that graphic because we got the picture of Dan and Lenny Fournette, and Lenny, he may never return again.
Yeah.
But
Did you see
anyway,
Dan wanted him to like play for the Cowboys. I'm like,
I saw,
dude, I don't know, man.
I saw Danny, like love Dan, love him.
Yeah.
Great guy, like genuinely a nice guy. But man, he is delusional when it comes to a lot of things involving the Dallas Cowboys and any guys he has played pickup basketball with. Like, you know, if Mecole Hardman gets traded to, I don't know, let's just say he went to the Chiefs or something, Dan would be like, dropping a couple second round picks.
Yeah, we can't say first because that won't happen. But
anyway, so for the 221st time, you know, I know during the season, especially, just there's a lot going on in our personal lives with all three of us. It's tough to get out here every single week. But on the Patreon, we get out there every weekend with an episode of The Pivot Point. And if we don't produce an episode, we put together some written content. And we did this last week on a team review. And I think it was well received. But anyway, final thoughts, Mitch, for the 221st time. What do you got for our listeners heading into week 7?
Look, I never do this, but I'm just going to say, just join the Discord. It's free. And it's not even like we're looking for you. Hey, if they're joining the Discord, they're going to join the Patreon. No, like it's just the best way to talk football there is right now. Twitter is an absolute dumpster with how it's being ran. So you can't even post anything and have it be seen. Just join the Discord, give it a week and see. And then if you hate it, then bounce. But just go in, post some trade polls because everyone in there is willing to help nonstop. We have so many discussions, even when John and I and Dan are not able to be in there. So please just join up and we'll just see how it goes.
And we have, I mean, it's got to be 10 different countries at this point represented.
Oh, at least. Yeah.
Like I wake up at 6, 7 a.m. Eastern time and there are full-blown conversations happening throughout the entire night. And I'm like, geez, Louise, I got to catch up here. But yeah, just come check out the Discord, completely free. You know, anything, any of our partners, anything that we're promoting, yeah, we throw a few links in there. We rarely tag everyone. I know that gets annoying. The at everyone, I guess, in Discord. But so for Dan Lamagna, Mitch Sorensen, I'm John Bauer. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and we should be seeing you next week. That's always a last minute discussion, but hopefully everybody had a good week 6 and an even better week 7. See you guys. Peace.